So if you want to find the most advanced, truly life-extending technology on Earth, you honestly shouldn't look in some sterile, Silicon Valley biohacking lab.
Right. Definitely not.
You should actually look at, well, a piece of rotten cabbage in 18th century Northern Europe. Or maybe a bitter, dark purple berry growing deep in the canopy of the Amazon rainforest. So welcome to today's deep dive.
It's a great topic.
Yeah, we are exploring the global map of nutrient-dense foods, and we're really looking past those, $20 smoothie powders and the aggressive matte finish marketing labels you see in the modern wellness aisle.
Oh, yeah. The trendy buzzwords are everywhere.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is to completely strip away that hype and look at the actual evolutionary mechanisms. We want to see how diverse cultures globally solved massive biological problems just by naturally relying on their local environments.
Because when you bypass all that modern marketing, what you are left with is basically a masterclass in human survival.
Yeah.
To really grasp what a true global superfood actually is, we have to stop thinking of them as modern lifestyle accessories.
Right. They aren't just trendy add-ons.
Exactly. We are talking about whole, minimally processed plant and fat sources, things that carry incredibly specific, highly concentrated nutritional architectures.
Like what kind of architecture?
Like high antioxidants, complex fibers, essential vitamins, and, lubricating fats.
Yeah.
These are whole foods that haven't just been consumed for a few trendy years just to boost an aesthetic.
Yeah.
They have been absolute, non-negotiable staples in local diets for hundreds, and in some cases, literally thousands of years.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand how these foods solve biological problems, I think we need to look at environments that actively threaten human survival.
Absolutely. The environment is the whole key.
So we are heading to South America first, starting in the rugged high-altitude terrain of the Andes Mountains, in Peru and Bolivia.
Which is an incredibly harsh place to live.
Yeah, it's brutal. And this is the birthplace of quinoa. Now, we all know quinoa today as, the base of a modern desk lunch salad. But historically, I kind of look at quinoa as the biological Swiss Army knife for the human body.
It is versatile, sure. But, a Swiss Army knife sort of implies it is a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Oh, fair point.
And quinoa is actually a master. The critical detail here, and this is huge, is that it contains all 9 essential amino acids.
Wait, really?
Yeah, that makes it a complete protein, which is exceedingly rare in the plant kingdom.
I didn't realize it had all 9. That's crazy for a plant.
It really is. And think about the context. To build a thriving civilization at 13,000 feet of elevation, like the ancient peoples of the Andes did, you simply cannot survive on empty carbohydrates.
Right, you just waste away.
Exactly. You need raw materials to rebuild muscle tissue constantly because the physical toll of that environment is immense.
And the mechanism actually goes beyond just muscle repair, right? Because you are living at an altitude where oxygen is incredibly scarce.
Yes, the hypoxia factor is huge.
Right. And from what I read, quinoa is packed with iron and magnesium. And iron is literally the foundational building block for hemoglobin, which is the protein in your red blood cells that actually grabs onto oxygen in your lungs and carries it through the body.
Precisely. So they were cultivating a food that literally optimized their blood's ability to oxygenate their tissues in a completely hypoxic environment.
That is just wild to think about.
Which raises an important question, right?
Yeah.
How did an ancient culture recognize this deeply complex molecular value without, nutritional lab panels?
Right, they weren't exactly running blood tests.
No, they didn't know what a macronutrient was.
Yeah.
But they revered quinoa as the mother grain, even though botanically it is actually a seed.
Huh.
Yeah. But they didn't need a microscope to observe that the communities relying on this seed recovered faster, they had better stamina in the thin air, and they maintained healthier pregnancies.
So the environment dictated a massive need for efficient oxygen transport and muscle repair, and the seed essentially answered it.
Beautifully stated. It was a perfect biological match.
Okay, so we have the cold, low oxygen extremes of the Andes. But if we drop down geographically into the dense, humid Amazon rainforest of Brazil, the biological threat completely changes, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. It's night and day.
We go from needing heavy-hitting macronutrients for energy and oxygen to needing micronutrients, basically to combat intense heat, rapid decay, and massive UV radiation.
Yes.
And that brings us to the acai berry. Now, we all know acai is the reigning king of the overpriced, brightly colored breakfast bowl.
Oh, definitely. It's everywhere now.
Right, but the actual biochemistry of why that purple pigment evolved in the Amazon is what we really need to look at.
Yeah, the pigment is everything. The deep, rich purple color of the acai berry is arguably one of nature's clearest warning labels. Or, I guess in this case, more of an advertisement.
How so?
Well, in the botanical world, that dark pigmentation is a collection of compounds called anthocyanins. These are incredibly powerful antioxidants.
Oh.
And plants produce these compounds in much higher concentrations when they are stressed by their environment, like, intense, unrelenting sun exposure in the canopy.
Ah, right. It is a concept known as xenohormesis, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
The plant is essentially producing this chemical armor just to survive the intense radiation of the rainforest. And when a human comes along and eats that berry, we are literally ingesting the plant's biological stress response data.
Yep.
We basically get to borrow that armor.
That is the exact mechanism,
Right.
because inside the human body, the biological threat we face at a cellular level comes from free radicals.
Right, we hear that term all the time, but what are they actually doing?
You can think of free radicals as unstable microscopic vandals.
Mm.
They're missing an electron, so they just bounce around, violently damaging your DNA, your cell walls, and essentially accelerating the aging process.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but the antioxidants in the acai berry generously donate an electron to those free radicals. It neutralizes them before they can cause that cellular rust.
That's amazing.
So antioxidants fundamentally protect the plant first, but through consumption, they become our internal defense system.
See, here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. Because when we hear about neutralizing DNA damage, or just the word superfood in general, we almost always picture having to trek through a rainforest.
Right, or climb a mountain to find a rare, exotic berry.
Exactly. But the biological problem of cellular aging isn't confined to the Amazon. So let's look at North America, specifically the native blueberry.
Yes.
It's totally unassuming. It's just sitting in plastic clamshells in literally every grocery store.
But it is packing an absolute wallop of neuroprotection.
Exactly. The North American native blueberry is among the most heavily researched superfoods on the planet, and specifically regarding the brain.
The brain benefits are incredible.
Yeah, all that dark blue and purple pigmentation we just talked about with acai. The blueberry has its own dense network of those same anthocyanins.
Yep, it's the exact same chemical family.
Right, but the research points to a very specific mechanism here. These compounds are incredibly effective at crossing the blood-brain barrier.
Which is notoriously difficult for most compounds to do.
Exactly. They actively increase blood flow to the brain, they lower inflammation in neural pathways, and they even promote neuroplasticity.
So you are actively fighting off cognitive decline and supporting your neurological longevity just by, dropping a handful into your morning oatmeal.
It's that simple.
And what's fascinating here is how different cultures engineer the consumption of these everyday superstars.
What do you mean by engineer?
Well, we might toss blueberries into a blender out of convenience in the West, right? Just a quick smoothie. But if we pivot to East Asia, specifically the historical traditions of Japan and China, we see a completely different behavioral approach to antioxidant consumption.
Okay, I'm following.
They didn't just find a plant rich in polyphenols.
Yeah.
They took the compounds found in green tea leaves and turned them into a deeply ingrained, heavily structured daily ritual.
I love that distinction because the delivery method really matters just as much as the chemical itself.
It absolutely does.
I mean, green tea is loaded with a specific antioxidant called EGCG, which is fantastic for cellular health. But the plant also contains caffeine.
Right.
And if you just extract the caffeine, you get the jitters. But green tea naturally contains an amino acid called L-theanine, and that slows the absorption of caffeine to promote a state of calm alertness.
Yes, it creates a sustained, focused energy. Much better than a spike and a crash from just raw caffeine.
Exactly.
But the true genius of the East Asian tradition is that they paired this biological smoothing effect with a behavioral smoothing effect.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Think about it. The ritual of boiling the water, carefully steeping the leaves, and consciously pausing your day to slowly sip the tea, it acts as a psychological reset.
So it's not just a drink, it's an experience.
Right. They engineered a holistic wellness practice where the chemical benefits of the plant and the psychological benefits of the ritual actively amplify each other.
Which honestly brings us to another brilliant example of engineering the delivery of a superfood. This time in India, with turmeric.
Oh, turmeric is fascinating.
That vibrant golden yellow color is just iconic in Indian cooking.
Yes, and that color is the visual cue for turmeric's active compound, curcumin, which is globally recognized for fighting systemic inflammation.
But there is a biological patch with curcumin, isn't there?
A huge one.
Yeah.
It is notoriously difficult for the human body to absorb on its own.
Right.
If you just swallow a spoonful of raw turmeric powder, your liver processes it out almost immediately. You get very little actual benefit.
Because it's fat soluble, right. So boiling it in plain water for a tea doesn't really unlock it.
Exactly. But the sheer brilliance of traditional Indian culinary practices is how effortlessly they solved this bioavailability problem.
They didn't isolate it in a lab.
No, they didn't isolate curcumin into some expensive supplement pill. They wove the turmeric directly into curries. They heated it in oil or ghee, which provides the fat necessary for absorption. And critically, they almost always paired it with black pepper.
Which contains piperine.
Yes.
And piperine temporarily slows down the liver's ability to clear out the curcumin, effectively boosting its absorption rate by up to 2,000%.
2,000%, just from adding pepper.
It's wild. And this wasn't done in a modern laboratory. This was a culinary tradition that just intuitively mastered unconscious biochemistry.
They created a massive nutritional and anti-inflammatory upgrade, but disguised it as a delicious everyday meal.
It is such an elegant solution to a biological problem. But I actually want to pivot our focus a bit here.
Okay, where to?
Because up until now, we have been talking extensively about optimizing health, right?
Right.
Fighting off the slow creep of aging, reducing inflammation, all that.
Yes, the optimization side of things.
But let's look at what happens when the biological problem isn't about thriving. Let's look at when it's about sheer caloric starvation and surviving extreme drought.
Ah.
That takes us to Africa, specifically to the baobab fruit and moringa leaves.
Oh, these are two monumental pillars in the context of human resilience.
They are, but I am going to push back a little on how we interact with them today.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because right now, if you want to consume baobab or moringa in the West, you are almost exclusively buying them as trendy, highly expensive, dehydrated powders, just to shake up in a shaker bottle.
That's true.
And it feels like a massive disconnect to me. Does tossing a scoop of green dust into a blender actually reflect the profound historical weight of these plants? Or have we just reduced ancient survival tools into, like, a profitable wellness gimmick?
I hear you, I really do. But let's not dismiss the powder form as just a modern gimmick.
Really?
Really, think about the environment. Dehydration is arguably the oldest, most effective preservation method on Earth.
Okay, fair.
Take the baobab tree. It literally thrives in arid, brutal drought conditions. It is called the tree of life, precisely because it acts as a massive succulent. It stores thousands of gallons of water in its trunk just to survive the dry season.
Right.
And the fruit itself naturally dries inside its hard shell while it's still hanging on the branch.
Wait, naturally, so the powder is actually the fruit's natural state.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
By consuming it as a powder, modern wellness is actually utilizing the exact mechanism that ancient African communities used.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. Removing the water prevents bacterial decay and locks in the nutrients, and those nutrients are critical. Baobab is incredibly dense in vitamin C.
Which you need to prevent scurvy, right?
Exactly. In an environment where fresh citrus just isn't available year-round, vitamin C is totally necessary to synthesize collagen, keep joints intact, and prevent scurvy.
Okay, so the powder makes total sense historically. And the moringa leaf follows a similar logic then.
It does. It's consumed across both Africa and parts of Asia. Moringa is a fast-growing, highly drought-resistant tree, and the leaves are packed with iron, calcium, and protein.
So drying them out just saves all that nutrition.
Yes. When you dry and crush those leaves into a powder, you are hyper-concentrating that nutrition. It allowed communities to store a dense nutritional powerhouse that simply wouldn't spoil.
That is fascinating.
So while shaking it up in a modern kitchen might feel far removed from surviving a brutal drought, the bioavailability and the efficacy of that powder is actually entirely backed by deep, necessary tradition.
That reframes it perfectly for me. The preservation method was literally the survival tool.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of preservation and environmental pressures, we focused really heavily on antioxidants, vitamins, and proteins so far.
Right.
But let's look at how differing global climates forced cultures to optimize their healthy fats and radically rethink gut health.
Oh, this is a great pivot.
Let's start with caloric storage and lubrication in a warm climate. The Mediterranean.
Right. The Mediterranean diet is essentially the gold standard for heart health. And the linchpin of that entire ecosystem is extra virgin olive oil.
And mechanically, this comes down to monounsaturated fats. I mean, you take a single ingredient, they'll all of you crush it, and you get a supreme source of fat.
Yep.
But why does that really matter for us biologically? Well, monounsaturated fats literally dictate the fluidity of your cell membranes.
They keep things flexible.
Exactly. When you build your cell walls out of flexible, healthy fats rather than rigid, highly processed trans fats, your biological machinery just runs smoother.
It makes a massive difference.
Nutrients get into the cells easier and waste gets out easier.
Yeah.
And all of that relies on the abundance of a sun-drenched olive harvest.
Yes.
But that got me thinking about the exact opposite environmental problem. What happens when the threat is the long freeze? Like, how did the cold, harsh climate of Northern Europe shape their superfoods?
That is a brilliant contrast to make. Because in the Mediterranean, the environment offers a relatively continuous harvest.
Right.
But in historically agrarian Northern Europe, the earth essentially dies for several months of the year.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on fresh greens or fresh olives in January.
No, everything is frozen solid.
Exactly. So survival depended entirely on your ability to hoard calories and nutrients before the frost hit. And that necessity birthed a massive tradition of fermented foods.
Like sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut, fermented root vegetables, and cultured dairy like kefir.
I look at fermentation almost like setting up a biological savings account. You deposit your raw cabbage into a barrel with salt before the winter hits. Mostly, you are just trying to stop it from rotting.
Right. It starts as just basic preservation.
But the interest paid out on that investment over the long winter is massive colonies of lactic acid bacteria.
Which becomes the ultimate superfood for the microbiome.
It's incredible.
Yeah. The mechanism of fermentation essentially pre-digests the tough cellular walls of the cabbage. It makes the nutrients more bioavailable while simultaneously breeding beneficial bacteria.
So it's upgrading the food while storing it?
Yes. When those communities ate sauerkraut through February and March, they weren't just getting empty calories. They were actively populating their gut with bacteria that fought off pathogens and communicated directly with their immune systems.
Wow.
They survived the freeze, and their digestive tracts were fundamentally fortified by the very process used to delay starvation.
The environment dictates the method, and the biology just reaps the reward. It's beautiful.
It really is.
And we actually see another unique adaptation for dense caloric storage when we look at Oceania, specifically Australia and the native macadamia nut.
Oh, it is the perfect foraging food.
It really is, because the Aboriginal peoples of Australia navigated some of the most unforgiving, vast landscapes on the planet.
The outback is no joke.
No, it's not. And when you are moving across those vast distances on foot, you need incredible energy density. You can't carry bushels of leafy greens with you.
Right, they'd wilt immediately.
Exactly. But the macadamia nut is nearly 80% fat. It provides an incredibly dense, slow-burning, deeply satisfying source of energy.
It is pure fuel.
Yes. It feeds the brain, it lubricates the joints, and it requires almost no preparation. The harsh landscape actually provided a compact capsule of high-octane fuel.
You know, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this entire journey we just took.
Yeah.
I mean, from the hypoxic peaks of the Andes, through the UV-battered Amazon, into the spice-rich kitchens of India, across the arid plains of Africa, into the freezing cellars of Northern Europe, and across the harsh terrain of Australia.
It covers everything.
It does, and it reveals something profound about human adaptability.
So what does this all mean for us? When we look at this wildly diverse map, from rotten cabbage to purple berries to dried tree leaves, what is the universal dietary thread that actually ties us together?
Well,
Because visually and geographically, these diets have absolutely nothing in common.
no, the ingredients are entirely different, but the biological architecture is completely universal.
Okay.
The greatest lesson here is evolutionary convergence. No matter the climate, humans independently discovered the exact same principles of vitality.
They all found what worked.
Yes. They all relied on whole, minimally processed structures. They leveraged complex plant compounds to fight environmental stress. They prioritized high-quality fats for cellular health. And they engineered brilliant preservation methods like dehydration and fermentation.
So the menu changed, but the goals were the same.
Exactly. The menu changed based on the coordinates, but the nutritional blueprint for how to run a human body at peak efficiency was the same everywhere.
And that, I think, is the most empowering, practical takeaway for you listening right now.
Absolutely.
Because you don't need to book an expensive flight to Peru or forage in a rainforest to build a globally inspired, resilient diet. The biological wisdom of all these cultures, the quinoa, the blueberries, the green tea, the olive oil, the fermented foods, it is all sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store.
The accessibility we have today is truly unprecedented in human history.
It is.
But the key to utilizing it isn't to walk into a store and overhaul your entire pantry in a total panic. The healthiest cultures integrated these foods seamlessly.
Yes, start small. Please don't go buy out the entire wellness aisle.
No, definitely not.
Just introduce one new mechanism at a time. Maybe you start by pairing black pepper with turmeric in a soup this week, just to boost that absorption.
Good.
Or maybe you swap an afternoon energy drink for a deeply steeped, calming cup of green tea to get that L-theanine. Just bring a little piece of global survival ingenuity into your own kitchen on your own terms.
Because it fundamentally changes how you look at your plate. You stop seeing calories and you start seeing history, preservation, and biological problem solving.
It really does change everything. But, before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay.
We have just seen how every distinct region of the world naturally discovered and utilized its own native, life-sustaining superfoods out of sheer necessity.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder, what forgotten, incredibly nutrient-dense plant or fungus might be growing wild in your own local region, right in your own backyard, just waiting for the modern world to rediscover its biological power?